I heard the news by Ronnie Chesney ringing me up and saying, we're making a film, there's no money in it. I always remember that was the first thing he said. We're making a film, it's got no budget, the budget for the cast is $7,500, so don't be stroppy about it. And that's all I remember. And then the film, and it was great. And we came and shot over here, and the big screen suited me even more than telly, which I was lucky about. We had a lot of fun here. This actual bar we're sitting is where we used to come in and have drinks afterwards.
Anna was very good friends with the late Barbara Windsor. And I knew Barbara, and particularly at that time, in the late 90s, I'd been doing some work with her. She did a documentary that I was involved in for ITV. So I managed to get an introduction via Barbara, and I spoke to her, and I spoke to Anna to see whether or not she was prepared to do it. And again, it was another one of those cases where, by recommendation, oh, I've just been on the phone to Barbara. Oh, okay, tell me what it's about.
I was just so excited getting a series, I thought automatically it would be a hit. But I remember that it was actually the second series that it went straight to #1, and then we sort of knew that we were on to something quite big. And we were all instructed we were not allowed to make commercials because, you know, there would be a big commercial. Never came, but we were told we couldn't make commercials in case this big commercial came. And then we sort of started getting fan letters, and that's when you knew. And then I remember London Weekend Television, because it was late 60s, you know, it was the hippie period. And I'd just become a hippie. And then I got called in by the head of London Weekend saying, you cannot travel on the train like that. And I said, why not? And he said, because you're recognised now. And that was when it clicked to me that you had to, there were certain rules and you had to conform, and it was successful.
She gets a bit of a hard, it's a bit of a rum-do if you think about the part she plays. She's actually a very glamorous woman, and people see shots of her in the 60s and go, wow, you know, she did modelling work for a while. And you see her in this interview footage sitting in the bar at Elstree, and she's by that stage, what, mid-late 50s, looking really lovely, glamorous, and so on. And I thought that was really important that people saw that. What we didn't want to see is that she was looking like Olive or dressing her like Olive to keep, because it was a character she was playing. She's an actress, and she went on to so many other things, including EastEnders. And she herself admits how dowdy the character was, and it was almost an accident that she got the part.
It said that she was always ill and that she was sex mad. And I sort of put the two together and thought, well, if she's sex mad and she's not getting any, there must be a reason. So I decided to make her as ugly as possible. And the wig I had actually had a sort of a flat top, so that it flattened my head, a bit sort of Prix de Munster sort of setup, really. And it was like that. It really was a killer of a wig. I've still got one at home. And then, of course, I dressed her in those outrageous things. With that, I would wear those silly frilly nighties that very slim dolly birds would wear, which made us so even more incongruous. Mutiny, I remember, was the one where they had that wonderful shot of going into the foam bath. And I remember the producer, Roy Skegg, saying to me, don't worry about it. What you do is when you get down there is you create this little space. And he said, it's just like going back in the womb. And I thought, strange. Anyway, I got down there and I created, and it was lovely. I didn't want to come out. And I stayed down there, just happily sort of dawdling around. And eventually someone said, for God's sake, Anna, will you get out? You're supposed to be... I was just playing around in this fun.
One of the things you recorded with Anna in 2002, which is not in the documentary because we had to really focus on just the 3 feature films and there was so much other material, you went for a bit of a walkabout, and there's footage of you and Anna 20 years ago looking just as glamorous and wonderful as you do today, obviously.
Oh, you're very kind. What about Anna?
You're showing her around the studio lot. And this was the studio lot from 20 years ago. And when you got to the top of the Central Avenue, there's building work going on, which looks like that's where they were starting to build the Big Brother house. I mean, that's how long ago it was.
If it was in the early to mid 2002, Big Brother had filmed in London at 3 Mills Studios its first 2 series. And then because it was coming very popular, they needed to build it in a place where they had more security around it, because it was just, and they suddenly thought maybe we should do it at studios. And they came to visit Elstree, and they saw the old water tank where they'd filmed part of the Dam Busters and Moby Dick and other productions wasn't being used. And we said, this is the only space you've got if you want to build something from scratch. And they said, yeah, can we have that? And it eventually was turned into a Big Brother compound, so they had all their offices and everything there as well. But I remember the first planks, because it was made of wood, coming from Alaska and arriving in a very cold February day in 2022. So, 2002. So yeah, that would have been literally almost 20 years ago.
I think holiday, because my memories are so funny about, you know, Prestatyn and the holiday camp and the laughs, and I just think it's got to be holiday. The fact that it was on location, and the fact that none of us had ever been to a Pontius camp before, and the first thing that impresses you is the barbed wire around it, and it turns inward, you know. And the fact that we were shooting with the public there. And I always remember the director, I'm sure you know, there's a phrase in filming where if you want to say, get rid of the light, you say, kill the light. And we were shooting the ballroom scene in Pontings, and the director had got all these people who wanted to be extras, but of course they didn't understand that once they were there, they couldn't go. So they wanted to go for lunch, you know what I mean? And he was like, no, you can't go for lunch, we're shooting. And then we were starting and this baby cried, he shouted, kill the baby! And this woman went absolutely hysterical. That's my sort of abiding, and the fact, of course, that we had the Olive's bum, which was not my bum, because the day before I decided it wasn't going to be my bum. So they auditioned about 18 people for my bum. Well, I didn't want to do it because the whole crew were there taking the mickey out of me, plus the cast, and I thought, no, this is all too embarrassing. So I said to Roy Skeggs, who was the producer, I don't have to do this, do I? And he said, no, no, no. And then they'd had 3 days casting the bum. It was hysterical. I never saw the girl whose bum it was. Quite extraordinary, because they're coming up and asking for autographs in between, things like that, and sort of talking about you while you're doing a scene. Oh, yeah, she's fatter than I thought, or she's thinner than I thought, you know what I mean? No, he's not as big. And it's you become sort of, you get tunnel vision. You just have to do it. And, of course, being on location, people enjoy themselves more. There's a lot of boozing at night, which led to 1 or 2 fracas in the bar, I seem to remember, and I think someone kicked the hotel door down. I can't remember why. It was just one of those sort of heavy booze-up series, you know, sessions. I only did 10 days. We only did 10 days on the last one. The whole thing was shot in about 3 weeks. There were periods when I thought I was typecast, but in retrospect, it opened so many doors for me. And look at me now. I mean, what is it? It's 30-something years. And I'm still actually getting money from it. So you can't complain about that, can you? It was great. I had, oh, Arthur, shall I take my rollers out? And I hate you, Arthur, but mainly, oh, Arthur. Oh, Arthur.